All right, guys, Alok is just joining, but I think we can start till then. So over to you, Sankha, Peter, and Sonali.
Hi, thanks, Janvi. Hello, everyone. Good evening to another one of our Twitter spaces on FNOP Charcha. So today is a very special day because we have invited our first lady host, lady guest and lady trader, and her name is Sonali. So Sonali, welcome to our Twitter spaces. So Nifty is like a very close to above 18,000, and it was a very interesting close today. So it's a very nice day. Like many people, we are quite hovering close to our all-time highs. So and quite interesting look at charts. And today we also have our first woman host, a woman guest. So Sonali, a very simple question to you. You are a full-time trader, right?
Yes,
So
yes, I'm a
how did
full-time
you
trader.
decide to become a full-time trader?
Okay, so first of all, hi everyone, good evening, and quickly I'll tell something about myself. So I come from a very normal middle class family background, and I did not have any extensive stock market family background. Okay, but then my mother was very much interested into a lot of various investment instruments. So she used to put a lot of money into mutual funds and bonds and stocks and stuff like that. So she used to tell me, see, this is how much money I had put and this is how much I'm getting back. So I think as a teenager, that thrilled me. And that gave me the first push to look at the market from to look at from a learning perspective. And after that I decided to learn the market, and I started little bit trading. Okay, and then I decided to do MBA finance. And after that I worked for a bank for almost three and a half years. But along with all this time, simultaneously I was trading into market. So first I started into equity. I started into equity swing trading, and after a few years I started into F&O. So whenever any trader starts into F&O, there is a first phase of blowing off the account multiple times. I'm sure all of you can relate to this. So the same thing happened with me as well. But the only comfort was there that I had another source of income. Okay, because I was working at that time. So I think, that phase taught me a lot. And I actually used that phase to learn a lot about technicals and a lot other things. How do you actually manage your emotions while trading and all that? So after this phase, I was doing pretty well into trading, and I thought that, we should give it a try, and we should look at it from a business perspective. Whenever you start any business, there is a smallest possibility of going into losses. The same thing happens with your trading as well. So you should look at your trading from that perspective, that, it is a business, and your losses are your cost. So if you look at your trading from that perspective, it is going to be, a fair game for you. So after that, I decided to give it a try, and I quit my job and came into this for the full time. And so far, it is working well for me. So yeah.
Great, Sonali. So do you mostly trade in index or with even with stocks?
I basically trade mostly with index, both Nifty and Bank Nifty. But if there is a good opportunity in stocks, I do that as well.
Okay, that's quite nice. How do you interpret the open interest data?
Okay.
So
So before we, yeah, are you saying something?
No, no, please go on, Sonal.
yes,
Nothing else.
Sonali, please continue.
Okay, great. So
Oh,
before
hi,
we
Alok.
Yeah, so before we go forward about open interest and option chain, I will explain some very basic concept about both these things because this space is meant for some beginners and some the retail traders basically. So I think we should explain the basic concepts as well. So what is open interest and what is your option chain? So open interest are your open contracts of that particular strike about that entity, right? And your option chain is going to give you the whole consolidated data of all the active strikes with their respective open interest. Okay, so basically, if you look at any option chain, it is going to give you the overview about what is happening with that particular index. Okay, so if you're a trader, why do you need to understand option chain or open interest data? Is because, let's say, if you trade based on the charts, you are going to look at only chart. Okay, so there is a slightest possibility of you getting stuck in a fake breakout or fake breakdown, let's say, right? But then if you know how to understand the data and if you already know how the data is getting developed, there is a possibility that you are not going to stuck in any wrong position. And even if you are into in any right trade, still if that trade gets volatile, you're still going to be very confident about your trade. You're not going to get panic. So this is why I think along with the charts, your open interest analysis is equally important for you if you're trading into options, basically. Okay, so how do you interpret this? Okay, this was the question. So I would say whenever you look at any option chain, I'm referring to the option chain which we get on NSE's website. Okay, that is the generic data. So whenever you look at any option chain, there are two parts. On your left hand side, you would see the call side data, and on the right hand side, you would see your put side data. Okay, so whenever we need to analyze this data, there is an assumption that we should analyze this data from the perspective of option seller. Now, why do we need to have this perspective? Is because l- let's say there is a contract, but then the contract will only exist when there is a buyer and a seller, right? But then why do we think that the seller is superior or stronger over here? There's a reason. When we think about the seller, first thing, the seller is going to face the unlimited risk in this contract, right? And the second thing, if we compare the buyer and the seller is giving the extra margin to be in that position, right? Which is why there is assumption that seller is there to win and not to lose. Okay, so which is why we have this assumption of looking at the option chain from the perspective of option seller and not from the option buyer. So if you're an option buyer, you need to analyze this data from the seller's side, and you should take the trades from your own perspective because you're a retailer and you're into option buying. Okay, so this is the most basic assumption that we are going to keep. So how do you analyze this? First thing, you're always going to get your resistances on your call side, and you're always going to get your supports on your put side. Now, why is it like that? We understood that this whole data is created by option sellers, right? So if there's a seller and if the person is having a bearish what you call if the person has a bearish view, that seller is going to sell more and more calls, right? And that is going to create the resistance in the market, right? Whenever you sell the calls, it is going to create the resistance, right? So which is why you will always find your resistance on the call side. Same way, if the seller has a bullish view in the market, that is that is uptrend. So that person is going to sell more and more puts into the market, and that particular thing is going to create more and more stronger support in the market. Okay, so how do you actually spot this? Whenever you see that OI or your first column of OI, whenever you look at any option chain, first column on the call side and last column on the put side, these are your OI column. So whenever you see the numbers are rising, which means that OI is actually increasing, right? So this is how you basically, at the most basic level, how this is how you interpret the data.
Okay, sounds good, Sonali. So, uh, anyways, we'll summarize in that because I have received multiple queries from the people that you should not speak in between. So we'll summarize in the end. So now we understand that from a option chain perspective, we understand it is 360-degree view. Now from a OI perspective, we also understand. So let's say we got that all the OI detail and we understand the support and resistance, right? Now,
Yeah,
most of as you already mentioned that these entire stories from coming from the option seller, right? So
yeah.
what is for option buyer in that case? As a retail trader, how this option chain used by option buyer?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, as an option buyer, the first and most important thing is your direction, right? Rather
Mm,
than jumping at any random level, it will be
mm,
great if you can find the right entries into the market. That is going to give you the, smallest stop loss and great risk to reward ratio, right? So
mm,
if this you can get from the option chain, it is going to be a great deal for you. So if you're an option buyer, as I told you, we can find out the support and resistances in the this thing option chain, right? So I earlier mentioned about the first column, which is OI. Now I'll talk about the second column, which is change in OI. Okay, so majority of the retail traders right now are into intraday trading. So I'll talk about uh, from that perspective, like how do you actually use this in intraday, right? So the second column is change in OI. So what is change in OI? Change in OI is your fresh position which is getting developed on that particular day. Okay, so you're getting the fresh idea about what is happening in the market on that particular day. That is giving you your change in OI column, right? So whenever you're a option buyer, first thing, you should never jump into the trade at the very beginning. Okay, if you don't have any particular strategy, I would not suggest to jump into any call or any put at 9:16 or 9:30 or 9:45. As per my understanding of data, you should let it develop till maybe 10, 10, 30, 11. By that time, uh, base of data is developed and you get the idea of what is going to happen at a very basic level. So if you are an option buyer, if you can find out that your resistance OI is getting it is increasing, you would see that it is going to be a downwards trendy day because your resistance is getting stronger and not your support, right? If you're a if you observe that your support OI is getting increasing, right? So at that time you would see that the let's say about Nifty. So Nifty is going to take the support at that particular level and it is going to reverse. So if you're an option buyer and if you get a dip at that time, right? Let's say about Nifty. Let's talk about Nifty. So if you find that there is a support at 17,800, okay, if you're seeing that your change in OI column is developing a rising number at 17,800 put side, okay, and your resistance number, your change in OI resistance number 17,000 on your call side is increasing. So this is your range for the day, okay? 17,800 and 17,900. This is how you decide about your intraday range, okay? So if it is not a very trendy day, okay, if the data is not very volatile, you will come to a conclusion that Nifty will stay in this range. So if you're an option buyer, if you get a dip near to 17,800, now at this level, you know that this is a support, and at this level, Nifty will take a support and it will reverse. So this is the best opportunity for you to enter into calls, okay? And you will probably keep a stop loss at 50 or 60 points below, and you will have a great risk to reward ratio at this particular moment, okay, to enter into the calls, right? Same way, if you find that your resistances are getting stronger, right, and if you find that there is a bounce, but now looking at the data, you know that this resistance is very strong for the Nifty to break it, right? So at that particular moment, you can enter into the put and keep the smallest stop loss. And that particular trade is going to give you a very great risk to reward ratio. So as an option buyer, I think this is how you can use it as entering at a perfect level, and by this you know where to enter and where to book, and exactly where to keep the stop loss, and also not only the data, but then I would say the data and the charts combining create a very nice setup for you as an option buyer. And rather than just jumping at any level and then staying in the uh, panic mindset, it is a great strategy to follow.
Okay, got it. Uh, Sonali, there is a question from Harsh Jain on Twitter. He's asking, please ask what should be quantity or value of OI should be considered as a strong resistance and support. Okay.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, he's asking what should be quantity or value of OI should be considered as strong resistance and support.
Okay, so there is no hard and fast rule or any particular number to consider, because if you look at if you look at Friday's data, because the if you talk about weekly expiries, if you are talking about indices, there are weekly expiries. So on Friday there will be very less data, right? Because the expiry is just starting. But if you approach towards your expiry, the data development is going to be very the numbers are going to be very high. So I think the judgment comes with the experience, and I don't think there is a very hard and fast number to look at. So if you just compare with call and put side, at that time you can get the idea. If you see the same numbers on both the sides, which means that more and more straddles are being made, which means that it is going to be a flat day, right? And if you see that there is a big difference on call and put side, right? You just have to compare the OI from the both side. And if you see there is a big difference, it's just the first clue that it is going to be a one-sided move and not the very flat day.
Yeah, makes sense. Just to add in that, Harsh, for you. So I think probably your question should be uh, how to decide support and resistance rather than the which number should be OI. So any highest OI from a call side or put side should be clearly will be normally it would be somewhere around at the money plus minus 100 points. So you'll see the highest open interest there. Okay, fine.
Yes,
So
basically, I will just add into this.
mm,
Basically, we have to just scroll down. Whenever you look at any option chain, you have to scroll down to ATM strike. Okay, you have to compare everything to your ATM strike. So when you look at your ATM strike, on your left hand side, whenever you see a bigger number, it is going to be your resistance, first immediate resistance. And on your right hand side, whenever you see a bigger number on the first column, OI column, okay, that is going to be your support. So this is how you get the immediate range, and this is how you
mm,
compare. Yeah.
yeah, no, no,
Yes,
agree.
look, just a clarity for the audience. You spoke about plus minus 100, so you're referring to Nifty, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes. So just for the sake of audience.
Okay. Yeah. So, Sonali, now one more point. So, okay. So you explain how we can identify as an option buyer for a call and put based on change on OI. We can do that. Now there is one question. So let's say okay, two important points for a user, any option buyer. Momentum is important, right?
Right.
Because otherwise option buyer will never make money. Correct?
Right. Right.
So, as a user, how we can identify the momentum, even if we know that support and resistance, that does not justify that there will be moment for sure. Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So, as an option buyer, how I can identify? Okay, there is a moment for any particular stocks or maybe index also.
Okay.
Uh,
So, as an option buyer, I would say
mm,
that momentum or direction is the best friend, because if there is a
mm,
flat market, it can be the most frustrating thing for an option buyer. But if
agree.
the market is trendy, it is going to be a very great deal, respectively, if you are on the right side. So it is going to be a great day for you if it is a trendy day. So first thing, how do you actually bifurcate the trendy day versus your consolidating day? Okay. So how do you find it out? So you have to compare your ATM strike. Okay, how do you actually get to know if the day is going to be consolidating or it is going to be a trendy one? Okay, either side, down or upwards, but then the trendy day. You have to look at your ATM strike OI. Okay, if you compare the ATM and if you observe that there are, somewhat similar data development on the both sides, right? Which means that nobody is, able to decide like what way the market will go, and most probably in that case, the market is going to stay very flat or consolidating or in a very small range. Okay, so it is a great day for straddles. It is an option seller's day. But if you find out that more and more calls are being written, right? Or more and more puts are being written, which means that if the calls are being written, it is going to be a downwards trendy day. Okay. If you find that the puts are being written on the, at every level, more and more puts are being written with an increasing volume, it means that it is going to be a upwards trendy day, right? So this is how first thing you understand if the day is going to be trendy or consolidating. So this data you have to observe until 10:30, 11:30. Okay, by that time you get the basic idea of what is going to happen. Okay, and also in the later words also you have to keep watching the data. So second thing, how do we catch the exact momentum? You have to be very watchful about your, I would say, support and resistances. So I'll give you two examples over here. I'll talk about Wednesday data development and the Thursday, okay? The expiry one and the day before expiry. Now, what happened on Wednesday? Wednesday second half, we saw an up move in the Nifty, right? Nifty actually broke 18,000 level, and in the end, it actually sustained above 18,000. So most of the people thought that, it is a breakout. But actually, what was happening in the data, 17,900 call writers were closing their positions. Okay, so which means that there was a short covering. But at the same time, 17,900 put writers were not creating very extensive positions. What does it mean? How do you interpret this? That, call writers are losing their confidence, but put writers are not very sure about this breakout. Okay, so this was happening, and at the end, at the closing, what happened at 18,000 strike? Okay, 18,000 change in OI column was actually showing a minus figure. What does it mean? That this bounce was actually used by these put writers to exit from their positions. So this was the first clue that this was not a actual breakout, I would say, right? So if you follow the data, there was a very less probability that you had carried the longs or you getting stuck into calls at that particular moment. This possibility was very less if you had seen that, if you had seen this data. Okay, so this is how you observe this. So if you if you are a very aggressive trader, at this particular moment you can take a put. So this is how you catch the momentum. As an option buyer, you have to have a lot of guts, okay? Because you don't have any hedge, you don't have any protection, so there is just, there is just your skill, nothing else. So at that particular moment it was the great opportunity to take the put, and we actually saw what happened on Thursday. With On the Thursday, we actually touched 17,800 level, right? So it was a confirmation for that data that, the put writers actually exited from that level on Wednesday closing, and uh, basically it was, it was a fake breakout above 18,000 level. Again, what happened yesterday? Yesterday after opening, I would say that, 17,900 call writers were increasing their numbers. Okay, change in OI and the first column OI, the overall OI number, both figures were increasing at 17,900 call site, which means that your resistance is getting stronger. Okay, but at the same time, what was happening at 17,800? 17,800 OI was increasing on the put side. So this was creating a very small range for Thursday. So if we observed the Nifty yesterday, we saw that multiple times it tried to touch the support, right? 17,800, and it bounced again till 17,900. The whole day it happened just because of because it was the expiry day. The movements in the options was very fast. So I think, this is how you observe the data. And if you had seen the data yesterday also, it was a very great opportunity to enter into the calls at the support and enter into the, puts at the resistance. So you have to be very watchful about this. And I think, if you're experienced trader, this can be very helpful to enter at a very great opportunity at a very nice risk to reward. So for this, I would say for the beginners, if you're not very experienced to find out these differences and these changes in the data very quickly, there are some websites which give you free graphical representation where you can find out the OI graphs and all. So in that you can see some drops in the OI, which means that call writers are leaving their positions. So you will see, for example, 17,900, let's say, call. Okay, so you will see a drop into that graph of 17,900, which means that the call writers of 17,900 are leaving their positions. They are closing off their positions, which means that there can be upside. Sometimes when the move is going to be very high, what happens? You will find out that you can compare two strikes OI data, right? Let's say 17,900 call and 18,000 put. Okay, so whenever there is going to be a up move, your 17,900 call is going to show a drop into OI, and your what you call 18,000 put is going to show you a rise in the OI. So you can see a nice crossover into the graph. So if you are a beginner and if you are not very used to find out all these what you call changes in the data, you can use all these websites and you can make a great use of it. So yeah, this is for the momentum.
Okay. The okay. There is one question from Dilip Mahato. So we haven't discussed that. So Sonali, he is asking that uh, is there cheap option always become a zero, or we always? So, okay. So his question is, he received some WhatsApp forward the hero to zero on most of the expiries for a very cheap option like 10 rupees, 20 rupees, right? And most of the time those options become a zero. So how to interpret on expiry days for those kind of trades?
Okay, I understood. Most of
Yeah.
the time, if you follow some, any business channel or any Telegram channel, so it is a great opportunity on your expiry days to find out such trades which are actually trading at very cheap level, and it can give you multiple times of, returns. But
Yeah.
then these are, as the name suggests, they are hero zero trades. So there is 50-50 possibility of them becoming hero or zero. So the user who asked this might have experienced these trades becoming zero multiple times. So what happens during the expiry? Most of the OTM trades, most of the OTM options trade at very cheap levels, right? And if you expect a very, what you call, any spike or any dip into the index, let's talk about index. So if you expect or anticipate any big move, right? So at that moment, that OTM option is going to become probably ATM, right? So at that momentum, your price is going to become higher. And because of the expiry,
Sonali, I think we lost you in between, or was it only me?
Only you, Shankar. Yes,
Okay, okay.
Anushka. Please go on.
okay. So during the last, I would say on the Thursdays after 12 or after 1, you get these opportunities. And I would not suggest the beginners to get into all kind of, these kind of trades, because there is a 50-50 possibility. And if you do not get that momentum at that particular time, there is a high possibility that these trades will become zero. So only if you have only if you are very confident about such trades, and if you are very confident about getting such momentums and spikes or dips, at that only moment you should trade this. Otherwise, most of the times these trades can become zero, and it is not a good approach to look at it from from that perspective, I would say.
Okay. Make, uh, okay. So now, Sonali, we have discussed most of the trading style, basically more detail on options, how we can buy and sell. There is one very generic question which is not directly related to trading, but yes, it is always special to ask with most of the senior traders. So there is two aspects. One is the discipline about trading, how why discipline is important. So technically it is important, but we just want to understand the trading side of, let's say, for the how we can. So basically, I'm not able to frame the exact question, but we want to ask you how you decide your discipline apart from automation, automated trading, algo trading, or those things. As a normal retail, how we follow the discipline. And the second question is how, as an option buyer, we can minimize our option risk.
Okay.
This Alok, I think uh, you're asking about discipline. Let's add this as also risk management principles. Your discipline and risk management principles, Sonali, as a buyer, as a retail buyer, how we should follow and how you follow.
Okay, I get it. So, any option buyer or option seller, okay, the first and most important thing if we talk about the discipline is stop loss. Okay. I have seen a lot of people who say that, I keep the stop loss in my head. But whenever the stop loss level is going to come, your brain is going to give you multiple excuses to skip it. Right. So the first and most important thing is to keep the stop loss into the system. Okay. Having a stop loss is a great thing, but to keep it into the system is the most important thing. So this is how you don't skip it. Okay. The system is going to cut that position for you. So the first and most important thing, stop loss in any kind of trading. Okay. And if the stop loss is hit, just get out of that trade and never look back. Because there is a possibility that because of the volatility, it may go back to the targets and you will stay into the regret, and probably that will disturb your mindset and you will end up into losses in another trade. So rather than, disturbing your own psychology, if the stop loss is hit, just leave that trade and do not look at it again. Okay, that is the first thing. Second thing, I would say for the beginners, right? Whenever you are starting into options, okay, options is a very lucrative thing, I would say, to look at, right? So whenever you start into options, even if you have bigger capital, I would say to start small, okay? Because even if you have money, your trades can become really volatile, and if you are not very used to look at volatile screen, right, it is going to panic you, and even before hitting the stop loss there is a possibility that out of fear you will get out of that position into the losses, right? And there is also a possibility that the trade is not going to hit the stop loss but the targets later, but then because of your panic you cut down your positions, right? So to I would say to avoid this, starting small is the best thing. Okay, starting small and with the same lot size, I would say. So if you are an option buyer or specifically option buyer, I would say to keep the lot size same for some particular time. Let's say if for first month or first 6 months, I would say to keep the lot size for, let's say, if you're trading into Nifty, you should keep the lot size same. So what happens in this thing is, even if your risk to reward is great, if you keep changing your lot sizes into the different trades, you will not understand what actually went wrong into your trading style. So from the perspective of analyzing your own mistakes, you will not understand where the things actually went wrong. So if you keep the lot size same for the initial sum of your period. At the end of that month or at the end of that particular, what you say, the duration, you are going to understand, if it was the risk to reward, or if it was the winning accuracy which went wrong, or if, any other thing which went wrong. It will be a clear idea for you to analyze later on. Okay, so I think this is the important thing, keeping the lot size same. Uh, uh, because we talked about hero zero trades, there is a tendency into the people I've seen that whenever they find the cheaper options, they tend to take a very high, quantity just to just to get the, high gains out of that particular momentum. But then just understand that whenever you trade into OTMs, or whenever you trade into the hero zero trades, there is a 50% possibility of that trade to become zero. So just understand that whatever you capital keep, whatever capital you are putting into that trade, there is a possibility of that whole capital becoming zero. So, you know, whenever you have a great, what you call, a probability of winning, at that time only you can keep the lot size good. Or, I would say when you trade into hero zeros, you should keep your quantity lower than your normal trades, right? So that is one thing. Another is start small, because whenever you start into this, if you are used to the equity swing, there is no such kind of volatility what we see into the options. So if you are quickly shifting to the options, and if you are putting a lot of capital into options, it can panic you, okay, because there is a lot of volatility. So that is second thing. And for option buyers, for option sellers, if there is a flat market, or if you are reaching towards your expiry, and if you are, if the market stays flat, it is a good thing for you. But for option buyers, it is not a great thing. Okay, flat market or consolidating market is not a great thing for option buyers. So as an option buyer, what discipline should you follow is wait for the right moment. Okay, there is no such thing as, there are some people who have the urge to enter into some trade at 9:30 or 9:45. By that time they have to have some trade, and then they will wait till 3:30, or by 3:30 if the trade doesn't go in the profit, they will carry over to the next day, this naked trade. Okay, no hedge. So this is the most wrong thing to do as an option buyer. Okay, first thing, you should wait for the right moment. Whenever you are getting that particular entity at a right entry point, you should wait for that moment. This is a part of discipline. Let's say that, this is the thing which is going to pay you off. So, follow this. So, whenever you find the right moment, only enter into that trade at that time. Otherwise, there can be some days when you don't find any trade as well. I'm a full-time trader, and sometimes there can be some days when I also don't find any particular, any particular move which is going to give me a great risk to reward, or any, great opportunity. So as a full-time trader also, I can skip some days, right? So for most of the beginners who are right now active into the market, for most of the people, it is a second source of income. So just understand that this is not a thing where you're coming to lose your money, right? It is your hard-earned money. So as an option buyer, wait for the right momentum, and at that particular moment enter into a trade, and that is only going to pay you off. So this is especially for the option buyers.
Oh,
Sonali, one question I have. Uh, you spoke about putting the stop losses not in the head but in the
Yeah.
system. Now, when we are, let's say, this is a question which, as a retail trader, I'm asking you. How would you put the stops? Like, would you look at the underline and then fix up your stop loss, or would you put a certain percentage in your call? Let's say you buy something for 100 rupees, and you put a stop loss, let's say 0.35, around 35% below, and then 70, around 70 rupees if it comes down, 65 rupees it comes down, that's my stop. You want to put that as a stop loss, or would you like to look at certain levels of Nifty, and if it breaks down, then I will exit whatever at market rate? What kind of stop do you do?
Okay, so I personally follow the underlying entities levels. Okay, so
Yes.
whenever getting into any trade, I should know what is going to be my stop loss. Okay, at that time only you will understand what is your risk to reward ratio, and then only you can
Hmm.
decide if you can enter into that trade or not, right? So I think this is the logical thing that you should be looking at the underlying, because that is the level where you are expecting that particular thing to take the support, or or the resistance, whatever, but then it should be at the underlying entity.
So it should be like if the underline hits your stop, don't look at the price, just hit the market button and exit your position. That way.
uh Before entering into the trade, if you are looking at the levels.
No, I'm saying while exiting. I'm talking about exiting. Why? If I have let's say set a stop loss of 17,900 Nifty future.
Mhm.
So let's say I bought a call and my Nifty future touches 17,900. My call becomes from let's say 50 rupees to 35. I will not wait. I will just exit at 35.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That way,
yeah, I
right?
understood. So
Yes.
what do I do?
I wanted this clarity to come through because when you said it should be in the system, it should be in the system of the underlying.
Okay, so I'll talk about some
Right.
option trade. Okay,
Thank
I'll
you.
give you an example. So
Mhm.
when I enter into a
Mhm.
call, let's say some 17,900 call. Okay. So whenever I'm entering into this trade, whenever I'm deciding to enter into this trade, I have also observed my underlying, I have also observed my option trade. Okay. So I should know the level where, my underlying stop loss, where is it, lying, and at that level, where do my trade will hit? What level will my trade will hit, right? So that I should know, and that level I should keep in the system. So as a trader, you should know that. So I think that is how I put my stop loss. And also there is one more thing which is a great, I think, great thing to follow is trailing stop loss. So
Yes.
yes, so whenever we trade into options, as we all know that there is a lot of volatility, right? So whenever the trade is going towards your direction, okay, and most of the time there can be different levels where you can, find small resistances. But if there is a good momentum, there is a possibility that the trade will not even respect the small resistance and it will just, fly high. So what do you do in that kind of thing? So, in that condition, whenever your trade is going upwards, or whenever the trade is going to your direction, you should trail your stop loss. Okay, you originally had placed your stop loss below your cost, right? But then when your trade is actually trading above your cost, just trail your stop loss. In this situation, what happens? Even if you are not booking very high profits, you are not even losing into it. Okay, don't let your trade to go into losses just because you did not book good profits. Okay, just because of your greed, do not let this to turn into a losing trade. So I think trailing stop loss is the best thing to follow into the options.
Great. Great.
Yeah, thanks, Sonali. Guys, for a summarization, I just want to list down what we have discussed. So, our entire discussion is mostly from the option chain side and OI side. Why data is important? So, just to summarize, every time as an option buyer or even as an option seller, when you are entering into the market, please go in detail for OI data and for option chain. It will help you to understand the fake breakouts sometime, and that's why OI data is more important. Now, the most relevant part, which Shonali has mentioned, that even if you using any chart XYZ, any charting pattern or any technical analysis, these OI data will technically help you basically, if you are going to enter into the wrong position, it will safeguard, and if you are going to be right, you can maximize your profit, right? So, and since the before, because of OI data, if you understand the overall market scenarios, your stop loss will be always smaller, right? So that is one. The second is option chain. So entire 360 degree view of overall options, it will help you to understand the each and every strike price along with the OI data. Uh, We have discussed multiple time earlier also, which Sonali also pointed out, that resistance and support based on OI data. The more OIs either or call or put side will be there, it will be support and resistance, and you can actually understand the overall market range. What is the overall market range? Okay. Now, for a particular day, if you are looking for option buyer, uh, you can use the change in OI for any fresh position, which technically tells you where the market is going to be. If OI is, if any particular specific time, if OI is going to increase, or let's say support OI is going to increase, you know that market is going to be bullish. So you will get the trend. Or if let's say resistance OI is going to increase, that means seller on a call side is going to increase. So market is on a bearish mode, right? So that clearly you will understand. The one very important point which Sonali mentioned for all the option buyer, that please don't jump in the beginning, like 9:15, 9:30 for the option, because till the time data is not even mature, right? So that when there are few participants going to come into the market, they start buying and selling, then actual picture will clear. So don't start option trading 9:15, 9:30 kind of. Always start after 10 or 10:30, right? So that is one of the most important point. Now the last point is, which Shankar have also mentioned, is stop loss should be not in your mind; it should be in your trading system, right? And why it is in your trading system? Because if there is a loss, you can restrict yourself, your maximum loss. And last but not the least, always start overall your option trading with the smaller amount, even if you have a big capital, right? Am I correct, Sonali? If I'm missing any point, anything?
Yes, yes, great.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I
That's.
think Alok, one important point, Sonali, which he said, and I really liked, was
Mm,
to be consistent. Stick to the same quantity of trades throughout the month, so
mm,
you will really know that is your strategy is working well or not.
mm,
So sometimes we use to let's say 20 lots. Some trades we use 10 lots. Don't trade like that.
mm,
So it's being consistent with the same quantity of trades, so
mm,
you will get to know when it's right or not. And like we are wrongly saying the right thing many times.
mm.
Zero to hero trade ko we are calling hero to zero. It's actually a hero to zero trade. Is most of
Right.
the times, like what Sonali also said, like it becomes zero. The probability of that being zero is true. I think everyone should play, if, even if you're playing on the zero to hero trades, uh, play with that with a strict stop loss. Because sometimes, look, as you have also seen many times it happens, even I play sometimes those zero to hero trades,
Mm,
and which we discussed earlier also. We still have a stop loss. So we buy something for 10 rupees. We still, if my price stop is hit, you should be still exiting that with 6 rupees. Don't wait for that 6 rupees also to become zero. So I think what Sonali rightfully said, and we should try to follow, is keep the price stop in, not in the mind.
mm.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sonali, for your time. Guys, thanks to each and every our listener. Guys, if you have any queries, though our time is very limited, I have received few queries also. We'll try to address those queries through direct messages or mail. In case after that, if you have any queries, you can directly mail us, or you can ask, through any other medium. We'll try to address. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks a lot. Sonali, big thanks
Yeah,
to you. Yeah,
thank you so much, Peti
yeah,
and Mani and the team for giving me this opportunity. I hope that it was a helpful session for all the retailers. Thank you.
definitely.
And thank you, Sonali, once again for your time, for being the first woman trader to come in our FNOK Charcha. And we are really proud of hosting you. And Alok, thank you very much for writing, for guiding us with the right kind of questions for all retail traders like us. And you know how we all behave.
My my pleasure.
Peter, and of course, Janvi, and all our guests today. Thank you for your participation, and have a great. I hope we all traded the week very nicely. It was quite volatile and we all loved it. The Diwali week was also there. And thank you all very much and wish you a great week ahead. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
I'll be ending the session now.